And good afternoon, race fans. We are back after 6 hours at the Nurburgring yesterday, hosting for Trackalicious 949 and Box3 Motorsports. I am back. My name is Adam Thursby, and today we are headed to the Nurburgring for a standard Season 3 race. Again, just like last week, split AM and Pro Silver class drivers. So you're going to get 2 races for the price of one today. Is that better than 6 hours yesterday? I'm not 100% sure. We're just waiting for the server to come up right now. And once it does, we will jump in there for that free practice session and start talking a little bit about what we can expect to see today at the Nurburgring. Again, if you missed it yesterday, I encourage you to go back and watch the 6-hour endurance. We had a lot of fun, a little bit of hang up at the beginning with some server issues. Teams worked together to get those worked out, and it was 100% worth it. It was a 6-hour race that was a constant battle. It was absolutely fantastic. And there we go. Our server is now up. I want to thank everybody for being here watching. I want to thank everybody that joined us yesterday, including Trackalicious and the 949 guys, as I get my stuff set and ready to go. I hope you all are having yourselves a great weekend and enjoying yourselves. I know I am. I'm having a great weekend. We get pulled back here on Friday and Lloyd Davies out there. Davis, sorry, I almost messed that up again. I did mess that up again, but that's okay. We're not gonna do that over and over again. A little bit of server jumping here as drivers continue to join. Remember, this is our AM class split today. Let's get jumped over and take a look
for round 2 of the
at what we can expect.
ACC
So again, at the Nurburgring today, really a good track, really a fun, can be a lot of fun.
Your host for today's race.
Sorry about that. I know there was some audio overplaying me. I apologize. Really a fun track, and can be an absolute blast to run, and a lot of opportunities for passing here. So all that said, this AM class split, these guys actually had a better race than our pro and silver drivers last week in regards to cleanliness, in regards to T1, but Nurburgring turn 1 can be an absolute show if you're not careful and decide to come down that straight. The start finish straight is so long. You've really got an opportunity there to pick up a lot of speed, even just coming off the formation lap, where you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. So let's go back up here with Roddy and Lloyd Davis, and because I want to see as he comes around, as he finishes this first out lap, maybe we'll go on board with him real quick and take a look and just see how much speed we see once he's coming down that start finish straight into T1 and how tight that can be. And he's going to stop on us, so. Daniel Reinsch, however, might not gonna get that first hot lap going. So let's go on board here as these guys free practice it up for the next 7 minutes. And again, this just gives you the idea of how long this straight is as you come down into this very tight T1 all the way down into first gear, and really not picking up a ton of speed as turn 2 is right there ready to switch back on you and head the other direction. Again, it just gives you some idea of why, you know, everybody talks about Monza and how dangerous Monza's T1 can be, and it is. It's a long straight right into a chicane. But we're getting something very similar here with a long straight, and while it's not what you would call a chicane, it's definitely a tight T1, and the guys will have to be on top of that today. Josh Butler out today in the 881 Honda. Gasolino returns in his Bentley after yesterday's 6 hours. We got to watch him quite a bit. Kevin Silvares as well, back on track after the 6-hour endurance race yesterday with Trackalicious and 949. While we have an opportunity here at the beginning of our race, let's talk a little bit about that. First up, Season 3 will continue after today's Nurburgring run on June 26th. So a week off next weekend. Okay, we won't be back for next weekend, but we will be back June 26th. That'll actually be a little bit longer with a 45-minute AM race and a 60-minute Pro and Silver class race. You'll see there fuel and tire for the 45 and 60-minute races. So a little bit different than what happens today. The no pit window. These shorter races, we are running that 10-minute pit window right smack dab in the middle. But speaking about those 6-hour races, we are back at Zandvoort July 9th. And again, we had a blast yesterday. There were a ton of battles the entire time. Like we never really got away from what was happening during the course of that race. So it was a blast to watch, and I'm still flabbergasted about the whole thing. It was just fantastic. So back again, July 9th. You're going to have to go over to twitch.tv/Trackalicious to catch that 6-hour race. But then August 20th, right back here at Box 3 to catch up with Mount Panorama. If you're an Xbox racer, though, if you're a console racer, don't worry about it. We got you covered. Season 3 continues. Yesterday, the guys driving for 60 minutes at Kyalami. They're back next week for 45 minutes at Laguna Seca. So if you're a console racer, unfortunately no streams on those right now, but if you are a console racer, by all means, head over to Box3 Motorsports Discord, !box in the chat will get you there, and join us for Xbox Racing. iRacing continues as well next Saturday, 8 p.m. UTC. We're going to Charlotte in the MX-5s, our first season of iRacing at Box 3 with many, many more events planned. We're just kind of getting our feet under us with this. We had a little mini season. Now the MX-5s are back, but we've got a lot of opportunity to spread things out, which is exactly what we will be doing. And why did I go there? That didn't even make sense. So once again, though, we are here for PC ACC Racing today. Frank Reynolds back on track today. We saw him last week and this week in a Porsche. I am missing liveries this week. I don't know what happened because I grabbed them all. I think some people overwrote their own liveries without renaming them, because I'm pretty sure we had them all last week. And as we said, your boy Blue is out. He as well drove in the 6-hour event yesterday and now out in the Bentley. So we got at least 2 Bentleys on track today, which is surprising. Yesterday in a 6-hour event with 30 teams, we had 1. And that was Gasolina. Now Gasolina back in the Bentley, and your boy Blue joining him. As actually, what am I looking at here? If we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 Bentleys in the AM class today. 5 Bentleys at the Nurburgring. Steve Dunn back from last week, as we mentioned. Another Bentley out there. Steven Dunn joining us. Lewis Ricard in his Porsche. So a lot of Porsches, a lot of Bentleys on track today. Scientist Monkey in the chat, thanks for joining. Gasoline, I'm glad you're here. Huff Manic helping me out there. Thank you much. Mr. Ploop returns. We saw him last week as well in our AM class races. As our free practice starts to wind down, we will get ready for qualification today. Butler in the Honda today. Yeah, Josh Butler out in a Honda. There it is. We're getting a little bit of an early glimpse, like we do every week. We kind of get an early glimpse during the free practice of what could happen during qualification for today's race. Now, again, it ends up being, you know, depending, I think some of these guys come out, like if we're talking like Butler, Rowe, Givens, you know, maybe just out feeling comfortable, not really pushing the car for a qualification pace. But right now, looking at a 156.925 as our fastest from Onivaldo Chalengo, currently sitting in the pits. Lewis Ricard with a 156.997. So 2 drivers during free practice hitting the 156s. We'll see if those tighten down any further during the course of qualification today. 18 drivers out for our AM class race. Don't forget, stick around after this, folks. We will not be leaving. There'll be a little bit of a break in here, but we will be right back. We're going to continue right over to our pro and silver class race, which should be, we should hit that right about in time for qualification, and no free practice up front. So we will jump over there at the conclusion of today's amateur race. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, we have two classes actually on track right now. We have our AM class drivers. We also have our rookie drivers. Now the rookie drivers you may find, and you know, Gasolina, in fact, I believe is one of our rookie class drivers. What you're going to find with this is the rookie class drivers will end up in other classes as the season goes on. These are drivers who are new to the league. We haven't had a lot of time to gauge where they sit. Even with a qualification that we ran, haven't had a ton of time to gauge where they sit. So that being the case, as we do races and we see where their times land in comparison to their peers in AM, pro, and silver classes, you're going to see those rookie drivers start to slide into other classifications. See the difference there? Those red flag drivers are rookies. The white flag drivers are amateur class drivers today. As everyone starts to head into the pits to prepare for qualification, we will get set here. Blue and Alex Martin, along with Mr. Ploop, deciding to stay out and get every ounce of practice they possibly can. Blue sitting right there in 10th during our free practice. Let's see if he brings himself up any higher with this lap. And no, not this time. And there we go, kicked over and ready to go for today's qualifying session for AM class racing at the Nurburgring. And speaking of AMs, let's take a quick look, folks, just to see AM class. Daniel, the winner last week in that Mercedes AMG Evo. Lewis Ricard coming in second, a Porsche right up there. Stephen Dunn in that Bentley Continental. So this gives us an idea what to look for today. Marcos Manulac in another Porsche P4. Ryan Davis, and then Lexus finishing in fifth. Frank Reynolds, the Warthog himself, another Porsche finishing near the top of the list last week, along with Mike Jones in a McLaren. Your boy Blue finishing 8th in his Bentley. Alex Martin in the Nissan, and Josh Butler in the Honda NSX Evo for your top 10 from last week. Ryan Davis out today, leads everyone out on an out lap, getting ready for today's qualifying session. Lexus leading the way. Daniel Reinsch That number 4 Mercedes. Great Horizon, who are you in game? I have to assume you changed vehicles this week. Marcos Manu returns in the Porsche. So outlaps now cleared by a few drivers. We'll wait and see as they start to set their first flying laps what kind of times we can get in. Terrell sees Taylor joining us late, a late entry in the Honda coming in for qualification. And Gasolina unable to get a clean one in up front. Checking with Frank Reynolds. There we have our first time coming in. Daniel Wrench coming in that 156.6. Now that was a little faster than what we saw in the free practice. And like I said, free practice is kind of this nice preview, but it's not really going to give you any sort of it's not really going to give you any sort of, I don't know, real indication. It's close, but it's never perfect. As these times start coming in now, again, Daniel Wrench qualifying first so far. Onovaldo Chalengo right behind him, about 0.3 off that pace. We take a look, these guys sharing sectors, but sector 2 still open to be grabbed for fastest. These guys kind of on opposite ends, very close, but again, Daniel leading out in sector 1, while Chalengo's just scraping out, but able to get sector 3 down a little bit quicker. Redding Davis in now at a 157.5. As Stephen Dunn comes in with a 157.8, putting him in P4 right now. Josh Butler up into 5th. With our first 158 today, we'll see if he can tighten that down a little bit in the next 8.5 minutes left in today's qualifying session. And there we have Daniel with the new fastest lap right there, taking purple in sector 1 and 3. So able to edge Chalengo out of that sector 3 by just a hair. Again, these guys really only off by about 1/10 to 2/10 in that sector. So we'll have to see which one of them tightens down and what it's going to mean as far as who comes out. As far as who comes out ahead. Interestingly enough, Gasolina right now holding sector 2, going purple, but without a clear lap. Hard to say why that's what it's telling me, but right now holding the fastest with a 43.240. Daniel Wrench still our fastest thus far today. NS Racing jumping up now into the top 5 with a 157.9. Stephen Dunn as well in that Bentley, getting up into P4, another 157. So, you know, starting to look at these times, we only have 3 drivers hitting that 157, only 2 in the 156 range. Everyone else kind of dropping off behind that. Again, Gasolina now able to set a lap and get clean with a 155.495, our first one of the day, and taking purple across all 3 sectors. And the changes continue as Tice Payne jumps up into that 156 club, beating out Wrench by about a 1/10 of a second. Daniel Wrench back into the pits, looking to make some adjustments. And now heading back out onto track. Gasolina almost a full second faster than anyone behind him right now. Mr. Ploop getting up into P5 with a 157 flat. Go ahead and take a look at the Delta though and see where things might start to move around as we come towards the end of qualifying. Tice Payne up a little bit on his current lap in the McLaren. Few others in there about a 1/10 or 2 faster, but no one really smoking it out quite yet. Your boy Blue was about 4/10 up, now starting to drop time very quickly. Matthew Givens now 3/10 bumping up. And another late joiner, Nikolai Tsiabok, able to get in the server now and join us in the Aston. And as we said earlier, Terrell Taylor joining us. With 20 drivers for amateur class driving today. Just fantastic to see this many cars on the track. And we'll see if there are more or fewer pro and silver class drivers when we jump over there a little bit later on. Gasolina currently up on their time, but Tice Payne not being a slouch, getting a little over 3/10. See if they can carry that through. Gasolina about a 1/10 faster now as Tice Payne opens that up to a 1/2 a second. Tice Payne making a play for it. 1/2 a second. Not quite going to get him there. And Tice Payne stopping and dropping to the pits right before the end of the lap. It did get down to a 155.875, so maybe finish that out. Yeah, it did finish that out, but still not going to touch Gasolina. Gasolina's going to be able to hold on to that for now. Especially looking here, even Daniel Reinsch only about 2/10 up at this point, and then dropping that right back off. So we may not see a ton of changes here. A lot of the drivers already dropping into the pits with just over 2 minutes left to go. And we will be starting to get ready for today's race. Onivaldo Cholengo in the pits. Mr. Ploop still out on track. Josh Butler now being pushed down to P9. Darrell Seans Taylor jumping up, however, getting himself into 10th. Marcus Manu. And of course, Manu's going to have the fanciest livery on track, if there ever were a doubt. Currently sitting P11. He gives us a wink on his way by. Thank you, Manu, for that. We appreciate it. Please do say hello to your grandmother for me. I'm sure she's a wonderful, wonderful person. And then I'm trying to do better. Tell her that for me. I am trying to do better. 30 seconds left now in the qualifying session. I don't see a lot of changes happening. I mean, NS Racing up right now, but sitting... Well, actually, that you know what? That 10th to get them there. That 10th will get them there. Above, or 2/10 now, over Mr. Ploop. Mr. Ploop a little ahead, but we're going to see... Let's take a look and see if NS can get up there into P6 before the end of this qualifying session. Oh, and unfortunately, scrub time off and now slowing it back up. And Mr. Ploop gaining all of a sudden. We're going to need about half a second to get ahead of Davis. Only about a 10th right now, so I don't see anything changing at this point. Nikolai Tiabuk still out on track. 6 or 7 seconds off pace and now into the pits. Even done up. Certainly has an opportunity here if he can hold on to those 2/10s to get ahead of NS Racing. Mr. Ploop now 3/10 up. We may see that change right here at the end. Even done cutting quite a bit of time on this final lap. But not going to be able to finish, unfortunately. We get ready now for our race today. So, folks, we will be right back. Stand by. Don't go anywhere because we're going to be back for 30 minutes of racing at Nurburgring in just a moment. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for round 2 of the 3rd season of PCACC Racing at Box 3 Motorsports. My name is Adam Thursby, and I will be your host for today's race at the famous Nurburgring GP circuit nestled in the hills of the historic Eifel region in Germany. Home to some of the most famous moments in motorsports history. Today, our drivers look to place themselves in the annals of league history. Stay tuned as we see who can succeed and who struggles with this intense 16-turn circuit. And this isn't our first visit to this wonderful track, as we've already had our exciting moments. Remco Otten's up the inside of G. Stevens off the jump at T1. Will Green taking the inside line on Bryn Evans at T7 in our previous encounter here. And of course, esports legend Ryan Canopin pushing alongside of Christoph Artz coming out of T14, heading back uphill. And I guarantee you this, we can expect more exciting moments like these as we prepare for split AM and Pro Silver Class racing today. So stick around to catch all the action right here at Box 3 Motorsports. And again, guys, we are ready for today's race as we get everything together. The drivers are on the paddock. And of course, even after practicing things, I can't get things to do what I want them to do. Because why would they? There we go. We line up, get ready for today's race, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Nurburgring. Up front, Gasolina sharing row 1 with Tice Payne. Daniel Reinsch, Onivaldo Chalengo in row 2. Davis and Mr. Ploop making up row 3 for us today. NS Racing in that very fancy purple McLaren. Sharing row 4 with Stephen Dunn. Josh Butler right there in his Honda. Going to share row 5 with Terrell Seens-Taylor. There he is himself, Marcos Manu. Alex Martin in row 6. Frank Reynolds. And your boy Blue lining up in row 7. Nikolai Tiabuk and Matthew Givens in row 8. Kevin Silvares and O'Connor make up row 9, with Rowe and Rickard bringing up the rear in row 10. We get ready to lay it down for 30 minutes at the Nürburgring. Our formation lap starting soon. Thank you much to Mr. Crow, esports legend Brian Canopin, for that fantastic intro video. Some of the ways we're looking to improve the quality of the broadcasts around here. My timing will get better over time when it comes to that. Drivers now lined up and set for our formation lap. Again, Gasolina going to lead the way. Now, keep in mind, please, I want to mention this particularly during this race because I think it's important that viewers know exactly what's going on. Gasolina during qual, a good bit faster than the other drivers on track today, right? But what you need to remember is if you look there at the red numbers, the red car numbers, those numbers represent rookie drivers. They're drivers who have just started with the league. We really don't know their ability And so they're racing with the AM class drivers only so long as they can be put into another class. Now that might be AM, so they'll end up with a white number next week or the week after. That might be into silver or pro. I don't make those decisions. Good people like Huffmanic make those decisions, and I will let him speak to it at some point. But just so there's no misunderstanding, if you see a driver today really, really pulling away from the pack, like Gasolina might, again, because of how, how much faster he was during qual, he's going to be reclassified at some point. So just something to keep in mind there. As our formation lap kicks off, we get a great tour of the Nurburgring. And I can't say one of my favorite tracks, but I certainly can appreciate it. As our cars drive through each other during formation. Tice Payne, again, sharing row 1 with Gasolina, and T1 here will be very, very important. Gaz going to have that inside line, but there is such a sharp corner at the end of that straight. All it takes is Payne outbraking him by just a little bit and able to make the swing around the outside without causing an incident. So it'll be curious to see who's able to break loose first into T1. Both Gasolina and Payne, rookie drivers, not in that AM class. And both very close during qualifying. As we drop into double file now to get ready. Some drivers not realizing that there's no collision during the formation lap and that they're safe. Burrell sees Taylor sitting P10 today after qualification. As we wait now for the green lights to kick us off. Gasolina with a little bit of a jump there, and we are green flags. Let's go racing for 30 minutes. 10-minute pit stop window will open up in 10 minutes. Down into T1. Things going deep now. Josh Butler losing position. Tice Payne as well. But very clean through there. Maybe some door banging, but nobody going flying off track, but positions lost. Rowe and O'Connor with some contact towards the back, and now up front, Payne and Shalengo making contact as well. But Gasolina out front right now ahead of Daniel Wrench by 0.4. And Lloyd Davis right there looking to join him. Tice Payne a little bit further back, but having to deal with Shalengo and Stephen Dunn stacking up behind him. Tice Payne now stretching out over Shalengo just a bit, but Stephen Dunn not giving up yet. Oh, and Steve Dunn, that's not Steve Dunn, that's Shalengo we're on. Steve Dunn off into the grass, dropping him all the way back to P11 at this point. Mr. Ploop and Josh Butler about to go head-to-head, though. As Josh looks to take a shortcut through the sand that didn't quite work out. And now, Manu going to put pressure on Butler for that mistake. Josh up the inside, but doesn't look like he's got enough. Manu's going to be able to hold on to this one. Terrell sees Taylor right there with him as we come up for the end of our first lap. Little bit of a nudge there, and Manu is the winner out of that battle. As we jump back, though, Josh Butler now under pressure from Taylor and Dunn. Steve Dunn firing around the outside. All three. Oh, and bad right there. Oh, that looked like Steve Dunn. No, I'm sorry, not Steve Dunn. Take that back. Josh Butler now yellow flagged. Yeah, Steve Dunn. Looks like Steve Dunn tried to go between two cars where there was not enough room to do so. Costing Taylor and Butler to fall completely now to the back of the pack. Taylor into the pits. Butler staying out on track. Reinsch under pressure from Payne. Lloyd Davies right there as well. Louis Ricard and Kevin Silvares now tucking Kevin just in the front of that Porsche right up under the wing of the Bentley. Stephen Dunn now, Ricard looking to make the move on him. And yes, that is Ricard's Porsche. I got my names messed up. I apologize. Especially when, again, liveries aren't loaded. It's hard to tell people apart sometimes. Keep eyes up front, though. Reinsch under pressure from Payne again. Yeah, now I'm not a steward, Snooze, but I will tell you, I kind of agree with you right there. And Tice Payne able to get around Daniel Reinsch. Tice Payne yellow flagged. Looks like we may have had contact here. Let's back it up a little bit. I hope 10 seconds is enough. Yeah, right there. Hooked. Daniel Reinsch hooking the curb and pushing himself and Tice Payne way back. Payne picking up in 5th, but Daniel Reinsch all the way back to P10 now. And Payne gonna feel pressure from Ploop. Let's go back and check in on Alex Martin, though, with Blue right behind him now. Your boy Blue able to skirt around, but Alex Martin not yet out of trouble. Matthew Givens now going to apply the pressure. Martin sitting there in his Nissan, just stuck in the middle of a Bentley sandwich. That can't feel good. Nikolai Tsiabuk and Kenny O'Connor behind them making contact. Stephen Dunn up front with trouble as well. We watch this battle go on. Let's jump up to Marcos Manu. Stephen Dunn applying pressure. Looks like he might have made contact at some point. Louis Ricard and Daniel Reinsch all right there. Manu the Dam holding the floodgates back. He cannot block everybody at once. And Stephen Dunn able to sneak around. Louis Ricard makes his way around as well. As Manu gets squeezed to the inside. Daniel Reinsch looking for space now. And able to hold the corner. We'll see for how long. And Daniel's got to watch because Kevin Silvares is sitting right behind him just waiting for his opportunity. But Manu able to hold on and stay ahead. NS Racing now under pressure from Tice Payne. McLaren versus McLaren around the corner, side by side. Tice able to sneak up around the outside and take position. So Tice Payne now, after an incident earlier, able to get himself back up into P4. But NS Racing fast out of the corner. There's no, Mr. Payne. Not that quick, sir. And a little too deep and into the grass. Gonna cost position as Mr. Ploop flies around as NS Racing looks for a safe rear entry. So Tice Payne gonna hold on to P4. Mr. Ploop moving up into 5th. NS Racing now dropping off hard back to P11 before able to make that rejoin successfully. Manulac, I'm sorry. Yeah, Manulac. I said it right that time, Manu. Marcus Manu, Daniel Reinsch continue to battle back here. Daniel pushing hard to look for the gap and unable to find one so far. Manu doing very well when he only has to defend against one vehicle. But, you know, when you got 3 of them coming, the car is not the entire track width wide, so you've got to have some problems. You need to keep a high eye ahead of these two, though, as Stephen Dunn and Louis Ricard are tightening up as well. Manu with a little shimmy coming off the curb, but not enough to open the door. Let's see who gets the launch down the straight. Daniel trying to tuck under and get a little extra help. And Manu losing position right there to Daniel, along with Louis Ricard moving ahead of Stephen Dunn at the same time. Both of them look to make the play in separate corners, about 2.3 seconds separating the two groups of cars. Well, Terrell Seens Taylor, I can tell you, cannot be happy right now with that incident. 263 seconds in the pits to get that fix made, and currently sitting in 20th. Josh Butler not having to go into the pits, but you can see the damage on that Honda. I'm sure once he does make a stop, this pit stop today for fuel only, it's probably going to be more than just fuel. Although if he's still driving now, maybe he just drives with it for the remainder of the race. Pit window about to open in about 45 seconds. Oh, and problems up here. Let's back it up real quick and take a look as Shalengo is able to, or I should say Shalengo allows Davis around, some door banging, and Davis comes out ahead in that one. As NS Racing makes his play around Kevin Silvaris, moving back up into the top 10. Oh, and a lot of bounce in there from NS Racing as Kevin Silvaris takes his position back. And then decides to head into the pits just in time for that pit window to open. So he's nudging an early one. He wants it done quick. We'll see how long he's in there. Lloyd Davis holding on to P2 right now, but Shalengo not that far back, only about a second. He's gotten around Payne. He's held on to this. We'll see if he's able to close this up before either of these guys decide to head into the pits. And as our pit stops start to happen, let's just take a look from the beginning of this race at our position delta. So Gasolina leading out the entire time, but Davis up 3 spots since qualification, and Shalengo up 1. Both of them, Tice Payne paying for both of those. Mr. Ploop up 1. Louis Ricard up 14 spots since the beginning of this race 10 minutes ago. Absolutely phenomenal performance, avoiding trouble and getting himself up into the top here very fast. Stephen Dunn up 1. Daniel Reinsch, we know, lost 5 there. But Manu up 2. Your boy Blue up 4. Everyone doing, not everyone, but a lot of people having great races. And there it is. Shalengo back around on Davis. And Shalengo running fast, opening up that gap. And Tice Payne looking to close in on Davis now. Davis taking the shortcut. And Payne able to take it to his advantage and shoot around as Davis heads into the pits. So Gasolina now in the pits, your race leader. Remember, only fuel, so most people shouldn't be in for that long. Rohe Rowe staying in for 30 seconds. Alex Martin about 15. Right now, the ones that are coming out, Kevin Silvares, Nikolai Tiabuk, about 11 seconds of stop time in the pits. So wait and see where Gasolina and Davis come out, our race leaders, and as far as what their pit times look like, as to whether or not they had to repair any damage. I do think I think I recall those two door banging a little, but didn't look severe enough that any of them were going to need it. Gasolina back out of the coming out now, only 5.9 seconds stopped in the pits. Drops back out on track in P11 and quickly around Matt Givens up into P10. Again, 5.9 seconds for Gasolina. Davis, on the other hand, 7.9 in the pits, so a full 2 shorter or 2 longer. We'll see if that impacts that once everybody's jostled in and out of the pits. But right now, your boy Blue has NS Racing to worry about. Blue doing well today, getting his number 614 Bentley up into 8th. Blue using every ounce of that Bentley straight line speed to get a little bit more of a gap ahead of NS Racing. Steve Dunn now into the pits along with Marcos Manu. Daniel Reinsch out back up into P5. Tice Payne still holding on to... Oh, and I think we had contact up front as Shalengo off track into the wall. Louis Ricard, Mr. Ploop all moving up. Daniel Reinsch able to get around. Shalengo looks like he is driving angry, trying to make a rejoin right now, but able to do so back in 5th. Steve Dunn now into the pits as well. So Tice Payne, your current race leader, no pit time. He has not been in at this point. Gasolina currently in P8, our fastest, as we wait for the rest of these guys to head in. Your top 7 drivers right now having been no pit stop. NS Racing once again closing in on Blue. Blue doing a great job. I mean, we all know the Bentley's an extremely wide car as it is. It's not called the Boatley for no reason. But Blue doing very well to make it as wide as he possibly can and keeping NS at bay this whole time as both, it looks like both, yeah, these guys are coming into the pits together. Let's keep it right here, just out of curiosity, and also our number 2, 3, and 4 drivers all into the pits. Tice Payne and Shalengo, the two who have not gone in yet. Blue and NS Racing heading in now. Let's keep it right here because with these guys battling as they have been, I'm curious to see who gets in and out quicker. That timer has already started for both drivers. And then we will be able to check the actual stop times once they are back out on track. As Louis Ricard heads back out of the pits now. Josh Butler heading in. Then Gasolina now up into 3rd. 5.9 seconds out of the pits. He was the fastest thus far. Louis Ricard, 7.6 stop time. Daniel Reinsch, 11.4. Mr. Ploop ahead of both these guys at a 15.5. And there we go. Blue already on his way back out. NS Racing just now heading back out. So Blue coming out well ahead of NS Racing. If I take a look at the times here, Blue in and out, his stop time in the pits, 12.7 seconds. NS Racing sat at 17 seconds in the pits. So a full 5 seconds of space there between those two. Tice Payne still running ahead right now. 21 seconds over Shalengo. Both of these drivers having yet to drop into the pits. Gasolina sitting a full 4.8. So about 25 seconds back from Payne. Should be plenty of time as Payne now comes into the pits. Should be plenty of time for Gasolina to get back to the front of this pack once Shalengo hits the pits as well. Welcome in, Super Rotario, and you are here to cheer for Manu. Well, let me tell you, I cheer for Manu as well. Your boy Manu currently sitting P7. Pit stop is complete. He's got about 12 minutes left to see what he can do. Right now, about 2.3 seconds back from Mr. Ploop. And there it is, Gasolina with Tice Payne and Shalengo both into the pits. Gasolina has taken up P1 again. And as I said, really the best stop of the day was Gasolina's 5.9 seconds. Payne now coming back out 13.5 in the pits. We'll get an updated gap there in just a few minutes. And Louis Ricard, wow, Shalengo dropping back hard in the pits for quite an extended period of time here. Still sitting in the pits, it looks like, not moving. Already up to 41 seconds and losing position quickly. And right there now, Marcus Manaluk is going to come under pressure from Mr. Ploop. As Shalengo continues to sit in the pits, all the way down to P11 now. Stephen Dunn as well back into the pits. 275 seconds. I am not sure that we will see him back out. But Manu now opening up a little bit, giving it, just making Mr. Ploop work for it. Sounds like a plan there, Huff. Thank you. I will do that here in just a moment. But let's jump back real quick because Shalengo back out in the pits. 30-second pit travel time and 35.8 in the pits. And now just lost position as we focus on Alex Martin because all these guys are so tight. Lloyd Davis and Shalengo all right there as Alex Martin drops one to Lloyd Davis, and now Shalengo around the outside of Martin's Nissan. Davis getting clear air a little quicker and able to open up on Shalengo first. Kevin Silvares now gone, or yeah, looks like we lost No, he's there. Okay. That was weird. He got jumped around. I think there was a momentary connection issue as he jumps back into P7. But during the course of all this, with pit stops and everything happening, we find Marcus Manu currently sitting P5. Let's go on board with him as he heads into the start of his next lap. Again, Manu with a relatively good pit stop today, 7.1 seconds. It's one of the lower ones we've seen. As we watch, we'll continue a little bit of blow by blow here. Nikolai Tsiabuk moving up into P9 over Matthew Givens. This is one of the things I'm finding about Nurburgring today, and I think I've noticed this in the past as we've raced here. The gaps, you know, sitting here where I do, I'm trying so hard to get to the action as quickly as possible. So I have a list, and I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to see who's close, and where do I need to put the camera and everything else. At Nurb, for some reason, the gaps will close so quickly from a 2-second gap down to half a second, just like that. And the next thing you know, somebody's around. So I apologize if I missed some action today. Mr. Ploop, you can see him right there in the rear view, though. Not going to give Manu a moment of rest for the next 8 minutes and 14 seconds as we come into the Schumacher S's. Again, Mr. Ploop, one of our newer drivers, but a lot of control, shows a lot of restraint as he follows close in behind Marcos here today. We watch him go side by side here now. Ploop having to back out real quick, coming into the corner. It looks like Manu got a great launch down the straight, opening up the gap to about 1 second. We'll keep our eyes there and see if that changes. Manu having a great race today as we again continue to watch this. Let's just take a quick look. Manu up 6 positions during the course of this 30-minute race today with just under 7 minutes left to go. Louis Ricard definitely playing the long game though. 17 position gains. Kevin Silvares having a great race as well. Up 10 at this point into P7. Your boy Blue, Seabook, and Givens as well, all having great races today. Able to move up very quickly during the course of this race. There's so many factors that come into play. It's not always about being the fastest, right? I'm number 72. I can't believe I did that. Stephen Dunn, are you the one that tried to split the Honda C? Is that, I think you are, Mr. Dunn. But right now we're focused on Mr. Ploop. And listen, Steven, it happens. People make mistakes. There will be a penalty assessed, obviously. Your best bet's to apologize and move on. Come back next week ready to rock and roll. Don't let it eat you up. It's hard not to. I've been there. I know that feeling. As Mr. Ploop sticks tires into the sand and the gravel, that's definitely going to give Marcos just a little bit of a breather here as they come up on the back marker. This is our battle right here, but we have to keep an eye up towards the front for P2 as well. Tice Payne, Louis Ricard trying to reel him in very slowly. You keep seeing that gap go from white to yellow, and there was not good at all. Let's back that up real quick to see what happened. Mr. Ploop had been doing a great job right there. The Bentley turns in on him, pushing Manu around, and then I don't really think there's much Ploop could have done there that would have helped. Kenny O'Connor in that green Bentley rolling in on Manu and breaking up that battle. That's a shame. Marcos now back to P7. Kevin Silvares able to capitalize and get around. And Kevin is having connection issues. Kevin Silvares is definitely having connection issues, as you see. That is the awesome power of the Porsche. Porsches give you wings. Jump up real quick though and take a look at Tice Payne as he does his best to stay ahead. You see Louis Ricard right there behind him. And like I said, you'll notice on your screen that's going from yellow, from white to orange and white to orange. Louis doing everything he can to try and reel him in, and now Tice Payne off track. So Louis Ricard definitely able to reel him in and get around right there. So Tice now in third and a good 3 seconds back with only 3.5 minutes left to go. There was room, but I moved left at the last second. I gotcha. Yeah, like Huff said, man, no worries. It's wicked stressful. We all get it because we've all done it. But you know what? You feel bad. That tells me you're not a bad person. There's a difference between the guy that does something like that, feels horrible about it, goes into the Discord, apologizes, says, guys, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking, total mistake, and I apologize, hit me with the penalty, let's go, let's move on to next week. And the guy that goes in and goes, I didn't do anything wrong, that's obviously not you. So that's what's important at Box 3 Motorsports. Marcos now has caught up, though, to Kevin Silvares. So what we saw what we just saw. Kevin Silvares saw it. Manu definitely saw it. And now Kenny O'Connor still in front of these guys as a back marker in that 428 Bentley. If I'm Silvares or if I'm Manu, I'm gonna be real careful about where I pass this young man. Kevin Silvares looking for opportunity, gets around on the outside. Let's check on Manu. We have contact back here, however, between Davis and Givens. Looks like O'Connor trying to give space, but again, rolling in, and there, another push. That one needs a review. That one's a little harder to say. I have to admit, that one's a little harder, Huff, from this position and this angle. Just a little trickier, but Manu now still in 6th. Kevin Silvares, the loser in that one, coming back to P7. Let's check in with Davis and Givens. It looks like they had made contact just a little earlier. Now Matthew Givens going to have to deal with Chalengo here towards the end of the race. Something to remember, sitting here in the broadcast booth, we make no guarantees about the outcomes of incidents decisions. Chalengo around the inside on Matthew Givens. That Givens might have kind of just given that one to him. Just a little bit. Might have handed it off to him. Now we're going to get a battle. Kevin Silvares, your boy Blue coming at you. NS Racing and Alex Martin back here as well for P13. Alex rolling defense hard against that McLaren, looking to keep NS at bay. But we've got to keep an eye on both, and it looks like Blue is wanting to make his move. Tried to take the outside, just wasn't able to pull it off. We'll see if he gets a better launch here against Silvares. Martin and NS Racing now spread out just a bit. But as I was saying, you know, we look at incidents as they occur during the broadcast, and I give an opinion. What everyone always has to remember is that I'm not a steward. I don't even play in that sandbox. I let those guys do it. They're much better at it than I am. They review them, they vote on them, they all come to a consensus. As far as penalty goes, racing incident, 15, 20, 30 seconds, whatever it might be. I can give an opinion. I've been doing this long enough that I can kind of give this, you know, I can kind of give an opinion. But, you know, it's an opinion. Just keep that in mind as you're watching. Silvares now trying to keep Blue at bay. Time has now run out on this race. We are on the final lap. Gasolina continues to lead by 20 seconds. Great race for him today. I see him moving up to our pro or silver class here very, very soon. Blue looking for any gap as we get down to the wire here. Trying to go deep on Silvares, and it didn't work that time. NS Racing and Alex Martin with contact back there, though. NS coming out ahead in that, or I'm sorry, Martin coming out ahead for now. We'll see if these guys are going to roll another lap here. Gasolina still not across that finish line. And we're going to keep going. Let's see if Blue can tighten it back down before the end of this race. Alex Martin and NS Rating. And there, Blue getting around right there as Silvares dips a toe into the grass. And Silvares taking it right back. Oh, we shoving. Oh, we shoving. Here we go. Blue out in front now. Bentley versus Porsche going into the end of it. Silvares going a little out wide and swaling the end of that Porsche. Go check in on Alex Martin and NS Racing. NS Racing going wide there. And there is your winner of your AM class race today, Gasolina. A fantastic drive from him today. Very fast against this group of people. Silvaris looking to make another move before the end of this race. We got 3 battles in this final lap, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try and stick with them. Your boy Blue right now leading Kevin Silvaris on the ultimate lap of today's Nurburgring AM class race. Blue now opening it up to just about a second, but Alex Martin still keeping NS Racing at bay as they start to spread out. Silvaris into the dirt, though. Nikolai Tiabuk able to get around, and Silvaris dropping quickly. Louis Ricard claiming P2 today. Tice Payne in 3rd. That is your podium. Kevin Silvaris continues to struggle as Shalango gets around now. NS Racing and Alex Martin. Josh Butler dropping back as well. Martin and NS Racing both able to get around. Nikolai Tiabuk takes up P8 and finishes there. Your boy Blue finishing in P7. Marcos Maniluk P6. NS Racing nudging ahead of Alex Martin. NS Racing clearing it. Alex Martin getting spun. No contact there. It looks like he hooked the curb. Let's jump back and take a quick look because, again, yeah, NS Racing well ahead and unfortunately just could not hold the back end of that Nissan coming out of the corner. There you have it, folks. Your AM class race. Louis Gasolina taking P1. Louis Ricard P2. Tice Payne is your P3 winner, and that is your podium. Daniel Reinsch in P4. Mr. Ploop comes in at 5th. Marcus Manu, number 6, did a great job. Your boy Blue as well, as we see the Bentleys having a conference in the grass. Nikolai Tiabuk P8 with Lloyd Davis P9 and Shalango finishing P10. And Kevin Silvaris with a great battle right there till the end, bringing up P11. Too bad. Some great battles in this AM class race today. Absolutely fantastic. As we back out of here, we will head on over to join our Pro and Silver class race already in progress. You're going to see a lot of stuff go away and a lot of stuff come back, and it all gets weird, and you could probably ignore it. See if we get connected. So 17:25 left in today's qualifying. So again, our free practice already done. We'll get caught up with these guys here in just a few moments during this qualifying session. I do want to thank everybody for joining today. As Huff said, we saw some crazy incidents during the course of this race. Keep in mind, in the chat and in the Discord, we don't have arguments about incidents. We record them, we grab them, and we turn them over to the stewards, right? Like I said, it's something, again, sitting here, we'll absolutely give opinions. However, what I will never do is tell you, hold on, give me 1 second up. I will do that. What I will never tell you, though, is that I have the last word on an incident. That's, again, I'm not a steward. Those guys are. What I am going to do, we are going to roll that all again, Huff, because we're going to try and do that. I'm going to try and do a little better on that grid walk this time. Everything's different. But before we do that, guys, we're going to jump over here during this qualifying session. Again, 16 minutes left to go. I'm actually going to step away for a moment, let you guys keep an eye on what's going on with qualifying. We will roll that intro again. We will do a grid walk today here in just a few moments at the end of our qualifying before the start of our race. Everybody stand by. Enjoy the scenes from the Nurburgring during our Pro and Silver qualification. Let me just flip something up here real quick before I step away so that it's a little easier to see who struggles with this intense our pros and our silvers. There you go, folks. Again, I'll be right back. Stick with us right here for 45 minutes at the Nurburgring.
And this isn't our first visit.
Oh, because it did a thing, Fife. It does it to me now. I got to keep an eye on it because it's a whole thing. I can't believe I did that again. I'm an idiot. You won't hear that anymore. Oy vey. There, it's over now. I apologize. It's new this week, so I got to get used to it again. It's basically the video rolling in the background for reasons. So again, I'm going to step away, ladies and gentlemen. Let's watch our qualifying session kick off here. Already seeing some 156s on track, but 15 minutes left to go. And I will be right back. Speaking of, there he is, Mr. Zap Brannigan out on track today. I want to thank Zap for helping me this morning because it's going to allow us to do a whole bunch of stuff. So let's take a look, and it's going to get better. Again, we'll talk about that after the race. But let's take a look real quick. There are your silver standings. Adam Thomas currently leading as last week's winner. And it's sometimes hard to read these. We're still, again, kind of working on it. Retro Coffin coming in second last week. Might have in third. Rob Keesar up there in P4 after one race of this season. Ryan Blanchette, Matt Comiskey, Robert Lewis, Brian Anderson, Zap Brannigan himself, and Armand Petrovic rounding out your top 10 thus far this season in silver class. And again, that's just after one race. If we take a look at the pros, Will Green, who we know is out on track today right now, leading, holding that pole position with 10 minutes left to go in qualifying. Last week's winner, Danny Bison in second. Cabron. Cole Gress up there in third in the Porsche 911. Tobias Gable in fourth. Daniel Pickett, the pickle man himself, sitting in fifth. Anthony Anderson, George Garton, Remco Ottens, John Gray, and Humphrey Wangle-Snatcher round out your pro top 10 standings coming into this week's race at the Nurburgring. Nate Lamlin joining us today, currently sitting third with a 154.8. Mr. Conrad Kula returns in that extremely fancy livery. That's a pretty looking Lamborghini, isn't it? Tobias Gable is back on track. Tobias now an Audi driver, a man after my own heart. Remco Ottens returns this week. Remco doing very well for himself in that Porsche so far. Again, another very fancy livery. Just talked about him. Daniel Pickett, the Pink Pig Porsche. A lot of Porsches sitting on this grid today, including Will Green moving to the Porsche for this season. Andrew Haynes back in action. One of the few, well, we got three of them out there now. McLaren's on track today. Clueless Geezer makes a triumphant return here to race this week, coming out in the BMW. John Gray with us. Another Porsche out there. Wilson Fernandez in an all-black AMG. You know, it probably means a missing livery, but I have to be honest, when I did drive, I used to just make my Audi all black. People didn't like it, messed with it. It's like they couldn't see bright colors. They got weirded out. We talked about him earlier. Rob Kesar, currently sitting in our top 10 right now after 1 week. Anthony Anderson returns in one of the few Astons out today. So far, 28 drivers on track right now. Christoph Arts back at it. He's Steven as well. We talked about Armand Petrovics. Artem Kudasov, another Audi on track today. Brian Anderson coming back out. Robert Lewis, DJ, and Lucas Smoke rounding us out again. 28 drivers on track today. Oh, I got you, TG. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. As we watch this qualification session, keep an eye on our times. Will Green currently sitting in the pits, sitting at a 153.7. Brian Canopin is on track. Didn't even see him earlier. Esports legend Brian Canopin. So I want to talk about a few people real quick here, and TG is one of them. If you were around for yesterday's endurance race, TG is my pronunciation coach, and he does his best to get me to say names the right way, and I do want to thank him for it. And that's me being sincere. We joke about it, but sincerely, I do want to thank him for trying to keep me on the straight and narrow there with that. Also, the video you saw earlier, you're going to see here again here in just a few minutes. That is all the work of Mr. Brian Canopin on your screen right there, right now, putting those together. We're hoping to have more of those set for all races going forward. And those standings you saw, that was Mr. Zap Brannigan helping me this morning come up with something, some way that we can easily pull them down, get them on screen to share them each and every week. So those things will get cleaned up, but I did want to thank those guys for their support, not just of Box 3, but of me personally, because they are helping to make this broadcast the best it can be for all of you. Takes a village, and Box 3 is the village. Something else I should mention while we're talking about the league. This week, we crossed 1,000 members on our Discord. And for that, we have people like Huff Manic and Will Green to thank. As those guys go out, Zap Brannigan as well, those guys go out, they promote the league, they stream, they talk to people, and really put it out there for everybody. So, video production legend Brian Canopin, that's correct. Yeah, it was hard because I talked to Crow yesterday. We talked about this before the endurance race, and I'm like, hey man, I got the endurance, I got some stuff I have to do around the house. And I could tell by talking to him, he was extremely passionate about these videos, right? And just really gung-ho and really wanted to do this and wanted to work with me for voiceover and all this stuff. And it was just so hard because it was a bad weekend for it, I guess is the thing. Not his fault at all. He didn't do anything wrong. It was just a bad weekend between the endurance coverage yesterday. That was 8 hours. Race coverage today. You know, all together about 11 hours of my time on the weekend. And of course, like most of you watching, I have grass to cut and a house to clean and a wife and kids to spend time with and everything. And so, but at the same time, again, he was so passionate and I just wanted to jump in with him and be like, yeah, let's do this. But I couldn't find the time. So we couldn't really line up. I think we'll get more time to talk in the future about some different projects and hopefully be able to put some things together that'll make it a little easier going forward. But you know, we weren't able to line up completely, but we were able to talk back and forth on Discord and end up making it happen. So again, big thanks to him for that. And speaking of Brian Canopin, I mean, again, 2/10 off of Will Green's pace here at the Nurburgring today. Danny Bison sitting right up there, though, with a 154.8. Kind of saw the same story in the AM class race. Now, obviously, AM driver's a little bit slower, but our top two in that lowest 1 second gap and everybody else kind of falling down behind that. We do have a few more 154s here today, going from Danny Bison in P3 all the way down to Tobias Gable in P6. So possibly some very close racing there. And our 155s extend way down from P7, Remco Ottens, all the way down to Maxim Maitsev, who is sitting in P18. That's a lot of tight driving right there that we may get to see during this 45-minute race. Thus far, Will Green setting the only fastest laps during this qualifying session. Just about 3 minutes left to go today, before we kick off for 45 minutes around the Nürburgring. Now, much like the M-Class race, single pit stop, there is a 10-minute window, fuel only during the course of this race today. While we do have a few minutes, let's check it out again. ACC Racing returns for Season 3 on June 26th. We're taking next week off, so there'll be no stream next week. It's Father's Day. Go say hi to your father. Go talk to him. Have fun. Throw a ball around, whatever it is you got to do. Okay, but we will be back at Kyalami June 26th. That one's a little different. 45-minute AM race, a 60-minute Pro and Silver class race. And as you see there, for those races, it's a fuel and tire, no pit window. So these guys are going to be able to work their undercut, overcut strategies, but everybody's pit stop's going to be about the same amount of time, depending on how they hit it. After that, back for the Hungaroring, Zandvoort and Monza to finish out the season mid-July. And you'll be able to catch each and every one of those right here at Box3 Motorsports Twitch channel. And we're back in July with no multi-class, 6-hour endurance racing, GT3 only, in conjunction with 949 and Trackalicious Sim Racing. You'll be able to watch Zandvoort on July 9th, starting at 4 p.m. UTC, over at twitch.tv/Trackalicious. And then in August, join us right back here for Mount Panorama, another 6-hour endurance race. If you like endurance, do you like endurance racing? I got from doing the one yesterday, people like endurance racing. Well, 12 hours of Barcelona, July 23rd, 10 a.m. UTC, 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We will be here for 12 hours live on twitch.tv/box3_motorsports. And if you are watching this and wondering, hey, should I come sim race with these guys? Yeah, you should. Because you know why? We have casual racing events during the week. This is our world tour. Some of those will be going away for the rest of the summer, but they'll be back in the fall, I have no doubt. Again, weekday evening, casual racing. It's not this serious stuff of points and championship points and everything else. So come join us. If you're an iRacing driver, though, come hit the MX5 Cup up with myself, Mr. Dunn, the Girthquake himself, Chief Blaze, and a bunch of others get together. And right now we're running MX5s and lots of plans for future seasons in iRacing. We will be doing that very, very soon. And we don't leave out the console racers. Xbox GT3 League Season 3 continues next week at Laguna Seca for 45 minutes. If you're a console driver, get on back over there. We would love to have you. Well, let's take a look as we continue and get towards the end. 12 seconds left in qualifying. Will Green still sitting in the pits, but Will Green continues to hold pole position here at the end. Brian Canopin in the pits, as well as Danny Bisden. So 153.7 looks like it today. 153.9 from Brian Canopin with a 154.1 from Danny. That will be your starting grid podium positions. Nate Lamlin coming in P4. Conrad Kula finishing out now. We'll see if he's able to bump it up, but I'm not seeing anybody really sitting with a faster time than what they've already recorded. So Conrad Kula sitting about flat right now. Tobias Gable now into the pits. P6. Remco Ottens starting P7 today. Andrew Haynes in P8. Daniel Pickett. John Gray will round out the top 10 as Kula drops back to the pits on us. Isu Motorsports says, man, I was so wet in that. Eddie. Tobias Gable starting P6 today. Good place to be. Get yourself out of the mid-pack. Lula's Geezer still out there. Currently sitting P15 and up about a 10th right now. As Geezer finishes out, that will end the qualifying session. And as you can see right there, there's your top 20 starting drivers. And as we get ready for today's race, thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you spending your Sunday afternoon with me. We get set. Get ready for the start of this session. Let's jump over at Mr. Huffman's request. Let's jump over. Let's intro Nurburgring again. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for round 2 of the 3rd season of ACC racing at Box 3 Motorsports. My name is Adam Thursby, and I will be your host for today's race at the famous Nurburgring GP circuit nestled in the hills of the historic Eifel region in Germany. Home to some of the most famous moments in motorsports history. Today, our drivers look to place themselves in the annals of league history. Stay tuned as we see who can succeed and who struggles with this intense 16-turn circuit. And this isn't our first visit to this wonderful track, as we've already had our exciting moments. Remco Ottens up the inside of G. Stevens off the jump at T1. Will Green taking the inside line on Bryn Evans at T7 in our previous encounter here. And of course, esports legend Ryan Canopin pushing alongside of Christoph Arts coming out of T14, heading back uphill. And I guarantee you this, we can expect more exciting moments like these as we prepare for split AM and Pro Silver class racing today. So stick around to catch all the action right here at Box 3 Motorsports. And there you have it, folks. Welcome to the Nurburgring as we get ready for today's race. Now, the great part about this is at some point I have to stop and click out because I can't see the whole list. That's fantastic. Let's take a walk down, though. Will Green starting in pole position today. and it's not doing what I wanted it to do, so that's okay, though. We'll get through it. Brian Canup going to share row 1. Esports legend himself sitting right there. Danny Bison and Nate Lamlin starting in row 2. Conrad Kula next to the Audi of Tobias Gable in row 3. As Remco Ottens and Andrew Haynes share row 4. Daniel Pickett in that pink pig Porsche. Boy, say that 10 times fast. Let me know how your tongue feels. John Gray in row 5. Christoph Arts and Wilson Fernandez starting in row 6. Anthony Anderson. Maxim Maitev, row 7. And the man returns in the green BMW. And we're starting already, and I'm locked to a car, and I'm not supposed to be. So that went swimmingly. We didn't get out there quick enough. Little too short on those longer grids, guys. Little too short on the longer grids. But we can go ahead and watch our drivers take off as we get ready for 45 minutes at the Nurburgring. Let's get caught up on this lap of wicked formation around this awesome track. Will Green leads the way. Brian Kennepan right there, as we said. Let's walk back through the rest of it, though. We got up to about row 8 with Clueless Geezer and Rob Keesar. Row 9 will be Retro Coffin, Matt Comiskey. Armand Petrovics and Robert Lewis will make up row 10. Artem Kudasov and G. Steven, row 11. DJ and Anderson making up row 12. Lucas Smoke and Bob Charlton, row 13. And Ryan Blanchette and Zap Brannigan bringing up the rear in row 14. Huff Manic going crazy in the chat. There's a reason there's a Manic at the end of his name. Again, 28 drivers out here today. Spread between our pro and silver class members. Will Green leading us out. The battle today to watch, and I'd be very curious. Again, we talked about it during the AM race. T1 at the Nurb, very tight, right? This is another Monza. A long start-finish straight, followed by a very sharp corner. It's not the chicane that Monza is, but it is extremely tight. We've got a lot of experienced drivers here. However, and again, we discussed it last week, there's a confirmation bias that these guys have as pro and silver drivers, that they are better than the AM class drivers. I don't mean faster, I mean better. And therefore probably take more chances than our AM class drivers do. That's what we saw last week during the races. I hope it's not what we see this week during the race. But the battle to watch today, Will Green, Brian Canepan. Again, 2/10 off during qualifying. Qualifying pace is not race pace. Both of these gentlemen are extremely fast. Both these gentlemen know how to drive, not just how to drive fast, but how to drive smart and when to make and look for the opportunities. So we'll keep our eyes up front as much as possible and try and grab you every battle as we move forward today through the next 45 minutes as we come around that final corner, lined up in double file, and we wait for green flag to fly. And there it is. The green is out, and we are headed into T1. Drivers already tightening up against each other. Someone looking to the inside and the grass. We are 3 and 4 wide, and a spin right up front. Oh, that was not good. Will Green able to escape, but sitting in P2. Will Green did have contact, though. Let me jump back here. Let's hit a 30-second replay on that. We can catch up with the rest of the race in here in just a moment, but we want to jump back up towards the front. It was after the corner that this happened. Will Green cutting to the outside. Kind of getting his nose clipped a little bit by Brian Canopin, but it was somewhere up in this group, and right there is where the hit started with backwards cars. A rocky start to this race. Someone taking the belief that discretion is the better part of valor and stretching out into the gravel. But after all that, Brian Canopin now over Will Green by about 1.1 seconds. Maxim Maitsev with contact, and as we jump down to some further action here. John Gray under pressure from Danny Bison at this point for P6 and 7. Daniel Pickett with his own battle as Christoph Artz and Anthony Anderson battle a little further back for P11. Danny Bison now yellow flagged off track and dropping quickly. I did not see contact there, however, so may have hooked a curb. So Christoph Artz at this point under pressure from both Anthony Anderson and Matt Comiskey. All the action right now towards the back of the pack. Our front runners have spread out a good little bit. Anderson right there with Matt Comiskey coming across the line for the first time today. Artem Kudasov and DJ battling now. Kudasov able to get around in that Audi into P15. Matt Comiskey and Rob Kesar continue their battle. Let's get back here though, because DJ and Kudasov are changing back and forth over and over again, and Armand Petrovic is right there, wants to get involved in this party. Kudasov able to stretch his legs now a little bit, but now it's going to be DJ and Petrovic. Petrovic's able to sneak ahead, but he's got that outside line. So DJ getting a busy day right here from the jump, and able to keep ahead for now as he keeps Armands right behind him. Yes, you can. A hard battle here between DJ and Petrovic. The battles continue all the way back through this bottom 15 right now is where all the action is. As G. Stevens slides off track behind him and there in the background. Zap Brannigan making up positions like crazy. Now up into P19 from 28 at the start of this race. G. Steven continuing to drop. Now Petrovic is going to have to deal with Lucas Smoke as DJ cements his lead for the time being. Matt Comiskey able to move ahead of Anderson as Anthony Anderson dropping back very quickly, losing 4 spots up front. Yellow flagged off into the gravel. Anderson and Steven, and we've got it going on here. Zap Brannigan off track now and dropping quickly. This group of cars right here led by Brian Anderson, with Bob Charlton right behind him, Retro Coffin, Ryan Blanchett, Clueless Geezer, Zap Brannigan, and Nate Lamlin all stacked up on each other. Zap Brannigan and Lamlin now going to battle. Lamlin on the inside. As they trade places, we'll see if Zap's able to pull ahead here. Petrovic and DJ now into contact further up the chain. No position change there. As Clueless Geezer gets ahead of Ryan Blanchett, just ahead of this battle to take up P23. We need to go check a little further up the line as Zap stretches it out, though. Remco Otten's now under pressure from John Gray. Porsche battle. Let's go. G. Steven and DJ battling further back. We'll try and keep eyes there as well. Right now, Remco Otten's doing a good job of holding Gray at bay. R58 now off track and stopped. Zap. Yellow flagged back there. Artem Kudasov able to get around Anthony Anderson. See if we can catch it. Shooting very quickly up the inside as Kudasov makes that move look easy. Ryan Anderson losing a ton of position now. Yellow flagged as well off into the gravel as Charlton and Retro Coffin will do battle in this group. Oh, and Charlton spinning himself, letting Clueless Geezer and Retro Coffin get around. Oh, and a push there. Wow, Geezer and Charlton getting into it. And against the wall. Do a quick replay because, yep, definitely a push there and contact made. Both drivers struggling to get reset back onto the track as we go in forward and check on Remco Ottens and John Gray. Otten's doing very well now. The gap, we got a little bit of accordion going on, but it seems to be widening over time. We'll see if Ottens is able to hold on to that P5. Now we set up front. Brian Canopin had opened the gap during the first lap to about 2 seconds, and as you can see, Will Green has closed it down. Will setting the fastest lap right there, 154.6. Brian Canopin's fastest to this point, a 155.1. So Will just about a half a second faster thus far. And again, that 2 second gap has now suddenly shrunk to about 0.8 to 0.7 of a second. I think we're going to have a battle up here, but right now we've got to go take a look at Remco Ottens and John Gray again. This keeps tightening down on us. You'll see it there in the tower. It goes from orange to red, which means they're getting closer over and over again. John Gray able to keep pace with Ottens thus far. Both these guys really running about dead flat. If you take a look at their last, if it'll do what I tell it to do, at their last laps, only 0.05 of a second apart on their last lap. And there it tightens again down to 0.3 of a second. I said this during the AM race, the gaps at the Nurburgring, for some reason, go from 0 to 60. I'll see cars a second and a half apart, and the next thing you know, there's a pass being made. So I will do my best to capture all of it for you guys today. Clueless Geezer now into the pits. Bob Charlton into the pits, both no doubt with damage. Clueless Geezer now disconnecting and gone. But John Gray continues to tighten up on Remco Ottens. And now we will have to start looking up front. You see the red with Will Green now within 0.3 of a second of Brian Canopin. Now, if any of you watched the endurance race at Hungaroring yesterday, you know Brian Canopin knows how to play defense. We talked about it with Josh Butler during the race yesterday. He is a calculating individual who will goad you into looking for the move and then chop your nose off and make you pay for it. And again, not saying that in a bad way. It's very clean racing. He's very good at what he does, and he's very smart about what he does. But now Will Green has closed that gap, and we are going to have a fight for P1, more than likely throughout the entirety of this race. As we watch the Remco Ottens John Gray battle continues, now Gray looking to shoot up the outside. And maybe swing a little bit of an undercut. Not quite, though. Remco Ottens still maintaining control of that battle. Rob Kiesar now getting ahead of Robert Lewis, and as these two trade back and forth, Kiesar with the inside line. And Lewis unable to hold on as Rob Kiesar moves up into P12. The Porsche, the very fancy and shiny Porsche of Rob Keesar right there. Let's check up front. Brian Canopin under pressure from Will Green. Now, as we mentioned about Brian, you know, Brian, again, very smart driver, knows what he's doing. He can goad you. He can make you, even as the front runner, it's not all about defense for him. He's able to goad you into what he wants you to do. But what you have to remember is Will Green, probably in all of Box 3, probably just as smart. He's right up there with him. Will, a former, in real life, race driver, motorcycles, but still race driver. He's been doing this a long, long time. And if there was ever a battle to have, this is the one I would want to watch. John Gray again going to look for a move along Remco Ottens. Ottens so far just absolutely stupendous defense. Watch those track cuts. We will see if we get any drive-thrus today for track limits. Not a normal occurrence at Nurburgring, but it can happen. And again, Rob Keesar and Robert Lewis continuing to play. This time, Keesar able to give Lewis just a little bit of a nudge towards the outside and slow him down enough to hold on. But now Lewis going to have to contend with Artem Kudasov on his way up. Further back here for P16, Lucas Smoke under pressure from G. Steven and Armin's Petrovics. And we are continuing to watch up front. Will Green, lap times almost identical at this point with him tucked in so close to Canopin. And there you have it right there. G. Steven and a little bit of a nudge on Smoke from Petrovics, but G. Steven able to sneak through. G. Steven taking up P16 now, and Lucas Smoke will have to deal with Armin Petrovics and DJ now closing in on them very quickly. We once again check in on Remco Ottens and John Gray. Another battle I feel it's going to continue at least until the pit stop, and depending on how that happens, we could see its continuation afterwards. Maxim Maitev and Christoph Arts now. Christoph Arts, very fast driver for Box 3. Takes a hard look to the inside. A lot of close battles in this race today. Rob Keesar and Robert Lewis. Lewis able to close back in on Keesar. Kudasov now looking to join that party behind Robert Lewis. As we have Retro Coffin now yellow flagged and off into the sand. Let's take a quick jump back and see what might have happened. That's a Porsche doing Porsche things. That's what happens to those when you throw them across a curb. Oh, and... oh, that shot me back. There we go. Rob Keesar again under pressure from Robert Lewis. Kudasov looking to get up there. Will Green and Brian Canopin continue to do battle. Will waiting for the right opportunity. I'm Will Green. I've got 30 minutes left. My pit window hasn't opened yet. Do I try and get him out here on the track, or do I try and sneak into the pits early and bounce right back out? We saw how fast some of the pit times could be, and there was a huge disparity on pit times during the M-Class race. So depending on how good your pit is, can you get into the box the first time? You don't have to move. They don't have to shift the car to the side, anything like that. Are you able to splash and dash, right? You came in loaded heavy. You wait till the end of the pit window, which will be that last 10 minutes. I'm trying to think. So 20, 25. What, it's like 18 and a half minutes it'll open? And then close up 10 minutes later. Harder to do the math when it's a number like 45. And Brian Canopin off track. Will Green capitalizing on that mistake, able to jump into P1 just like that. Let's back up and take another quick look. We see him come out of the corner just a little too hot and unable to hold on. giving Will Green the advantage, an ability to move into first position. But that was a mistake. That's not the whole race, and Brian Canopin will continue to close in and apply pressure throughout the rest of this. Rob Keesar continues to feel that pressure. Takes a little bit of a nudge from Lewis. Now sitting on the outside. Robert Lewis barely holding on against Kudasov. Kudasov making the play. We saw this during the last race. Let's not have a repeat. Keesar holding on, but Robert Lewis able to dive the inside on that corner, and we're going pretty much 3 wide at this point. Lewis able to pull out in front. Now Keesar on the inside, but Kudasov right there and looking to take advantage. So Robert Lewis moving ahead now as Keesar will play defense against Kudasov. Lewis opening up a gap relatively quickly. As these three start to spread back out, but excellent move by Robert Lewis. A lot of pressure there applied to Keesar. Kudasov closing in slightly, but great racing right there. And we go back to the Remco Ottens John Gray Festival. As I said, Porsche versus Porsche. Ottens doing a fantastic job thus far, keeping John Gray in check. As we look up front, Will Green has opened the gap to a little over 1.5 seconds between himself and Brian Canopin. There we see a new fastest lap from Will Green, now with clean air of a 154.602. Brian's fastest lap still a 155.1. So really, again, about a half a second separating these two when it comes to pace. So now with Will Green having clean air, is he going to be able to just continually open that gap, or will his own mistakes allow Brian to close that back down at some point? And we will be very closely watching the pit stops from both of those gentlemen as they start to head in. Keesar now, Anderson and G. Steven all into the pits. It's one pit, fuel only, Fife. Fuel only. And there is a 10-minute pit window, which I'm assuming has opened. Again, Anderson, Keesar, and G. Steven all into the pits. Nate Lamlin and Retro Coffin heading in as well. This battle between Remco Ottens and John Gray continues. Gray unable to find any sort of chink in the Ottens armor today. As this second race of season 3 continues at the Nurburgring. Watching a little further back as well, Lucas Smoke now starting to come under pressure from Armand Petrovic. Oh, and Smoke yellowed. No contact. Let's back it up real quick and take a look. Again, the curbs claim another victim at the Nürburgring, and Lucas Smoke now sliding down into P18 as we jump up. Armand Petrovic's now under pressure from DJ. Daniel Pickett now into the pits. And again, we'll be very carefully watching the pit strategy from Canopin and Green. Not so much the strategy, again, it's fuel only, but who goes in early, who comes in, who goes in late. How long is that pit stop, right? Because we saw gaps of anywhere from 2 to 7 seconds during the M-Class race. And it'll be interesting to see if we see those same gaps here and what that does for these drivers up front that are separated by, say, again, Will and Brian about 2.3 seconds right now. Same goes with Tobias Gable, who Tobias Gable, slow and steady, wins the race. And I don't mean to call him slow. I should have said quiet and steady, because Tobias stayed out of trouble this whole time, now finds himself sitting on podium with Conrad Kula 1.5 seconds off the pace. And if, you know what, while we're at it, let's just take a look at it. The position delta today. Will Green qualifying first, holding on to it right now. Brian Canopin right there with him. But Tobias Gable up 3 spots to number 3. Kula joining him up 1. Remco Ottens at this point up 2 positions. And John Gray having a fantastic race, moving up 4. So far, though, the winner and the one doing the best, Ryan Blanchett all the way down in P16. An 11 position gain since the start of this race today. Again, Tobias Gable in that Audi Evo 2 having a very steady race thus far. And I can tell you right now, in the Evo 1, he would not have taken that curb like that because it could not handle it. But this Evo 2 seems to chew on the curbs a lot better than the previous Audi. Brian Canopin now 2.8 seconds to the negative on Will Green. Will continuing to open that up. Andrew Haynes now into the pits. John Gray giving Remco Ottens a bit of a break. Going to be driving by himself as Gray heads into the pits. We'll start taking a look at some of these times for these drivers that have already made their pit stops. Again, a lot of these guys, it's interesting because it's hard to tell if they needed repairs. So if we take a look here, Danny Bison, 29 seconds, 45 seconds stopped during his pit stop. However, someone like Daniel Pickett, who's already back out on track, only 5.6 seconds stopped at the pits. A total of 29 seconds in and out. John Gray a little slower though. John Gray 15 seconds stopped in the pits. That's definitely going to cost him as he comes back out on track behind Pickett, but 8.4 seconds behind Pickett. Now Ryan Blanchett under pressure from Daniel Pickett. We always talk about strategy. If I'm Pickett, I don't, and Blanchett giving up the position. I'm unsure as to why, but possibly his own strategy as well. Blanchett is not pitted yet. He knows he's got to go in. He knows he has a limited time to do it. I don't want to battle Daniel Pickett right now. I'm going to hit the pits. I know I'm going to fall back out behind him. I'll let him have that position. Where if I'm Pickett, I'm sitting there going, I don't want to fight this guy because he still has to go into the pits. I ain't worried about him. I'll get around him while he's tooling around in there at 50 kilometers an hour. So Pickett right now sitting in P14. Oh, and something... No. What? I am showing Brian Canopin into the pits, but it dropped into P23, and I am very unsure as to why, because he should not have lost that many positions just going into the pits. So we'll see what happens once he's back out on track. That was very strange. As we do look back up front, Remco Ottens now and Conrad Kula making their pit stops. Will Green continues to lead this race. Tobias Gable now into second position. Brian Canopin back out, only 5.9 seconds in the pits, but I don't understand how he's coming back out in 25th. That makes very little sense to me, so we'll have to check on that as our front runners continue to start to make pit stops. Maxim Maitev under pressure from Christoph Arts. Arts now into 4th without a pit stop. And there we go. It's fixing Canopin now. Perfect. Okay. Who knows? ACC does weird things sometimes. But as I said, Brian Canopin back out of the pits. Looks like he's going to settle into P7. No one ahead of him has gone in yet. 2 drivers behind him have not gone in yet. But only 5.9 seconds stopped in that pit stop. It'll be very interesting to see where Will Green lands as to when he takes his stop and how long he's in there. Again, the driving of the pits is about the same for everybody as you would expect. 29.3, 29.5 seconds. Some a little higher at a 29.9. Brian very good at a 29.3, but every 10th counts. And it'll be interesting to see with Will having a 2, by the time Brian went in, about a 2.6 second advantage. Is that going to be enough for him to hold on to P1 when he makes that pit stop? Tobias Gable now into the pits. Yeah, Fife, it will say that though, because just to give you an idea, so Gable, Maitsev, Arts, Comiskey, Lewis now all heading into the pits. Gable, so Will is on lap 13 and Maitsev able to pass in the pits. Not sure how that worked out. Will is on lap 13. Tobias Gable, now Brian Canopin are on lap 13. As these drivers are coming through, their laps are updating and showing them now on lap 13. But until they cross that line, it'll say they're a lap down, even though they're only so many seconds back. So Brian Canopin now back into second, a full 38 seconds behind Will Green, as he comes up on the back end of Zap Brannigan and will look to clear back marker. Tobias Gable already back out on track, sitting in P3. A little bit longer pit stop for him there, 7.4 seconds in the pits, putting him about 11 seconds back now off Brian Canopin in second. So really it's going to come down to watching Will's time when he comes in and what happens there as we take a look at Christoph Arts and Matt Comiskey about to do battle. Tobias Gable right now, again, a quiet and steady race for him, getting himself up into third position. He's got 3 seconds back to Kula behind him. All he's got to do at this point is stay consistent, try and stay out of traffic. Hopefully that works out for him. And there Will Green heads into the pit, so we'll be watching that timer. Let's see how long he sits. We'll jump over to him real quick here in just a second, as Will Green dives into the pits to make that stop. Brian Canopin was 38 seconds back. These pit stops have been less than 38 seconds. The 29.2s, the 29.3s, and then add the 5 seconds. You're talking 34, 35 seconds. Will has an opportunity here to come back out and still be in first. It all depends on how long he sits. And there he has dropped. He is moving again. Total time 29.3 in and 5.9 sitting, but there it happened. Brian Canopin able to get around Will Green. I'm sorry, Will Green, 12.2 seconds stopped in the pits after the update as he came out. So that right there cost Will P1, that 12.2 seconds sitting in the pits versus the 5.9 of Brian Canopin. Will also about 0.6 slower on his in and out of the pits, now sitting 2.8 back from our race leader, esports legend, Brian Canopin. Tobias Gable continuing to hold on to P3 right now in that number 188 Audi. Conrad Kula bringing up P4 as our pit stops roll to an end. Everyone's been in at this point. All drivers have made those pit stops, and sitting in P5, Remco Otten's having a fantastic race. We'll see if Daniel Pickett is able to close the gap up to Otten's, and we will have another Porsche battle. I love it too, Huff. Gives me something to talk about. Again, if we take a look at the position gains today, Brian Canopin and Will Greeny exchanging 1 for 1. Again, Tobias Gable, great race for him, sitting at up in P3, gaining 3 positions during the course of today's race. Conrad Kula gaining 1. Remco Otten's up 2. But as I said, you know, we got some drivers that fare better than others depending on what happens. Matt Comiskey up 9 spots and G. Steven up 10. Ryan Blanchette as well up 9 positions today during the course of the race. So great to see these guys able to make moves, keep themselves out of trouble, and really make gains during the course of a race. 15 minutes left to go in this race at the Nurburgring at Box 3 Motorsports. Don't forget, we're off next week. It's Father's Day. Go say hello to your father. Go talk. Take him to breakfast. Don't take dad to dinner. All right? Don't take dad to... Dads don't want to do dinner. Dads want to get their day started. They want to do stuff and get it done. It doesn't matter if it's Father's Day or not. Take your dad to breakfast, okay? Take him to breakfast. Get him a good hearty breakfast. He goes home and he mows the lawn, right? That's what dads do. What I do. That's what my dad always did. Take him to breakfast. Trust me. But we're back on the 26th for race 3, and we'll take a look at it here at the end. But we will be back for race 3 of season 3 of Box 3 Motorsports 333. It's going to be pretty sweet. The next race is Season 3, Race 3 at Box 3. It's the triple threat in 2 weeks. So make sure you come back here for that. Yeah, Huff Manic taking vacation next week. Must be nice. I haven't taken one yet this year. I've had exactly 1 day off so far. Other than not counting weekends. So Brian Canopin, now we saw this earlier. This is kind of what we saw at the beginning of the race, but the time frame is much, much lower now. Brian Canopin leading, Will Green about 2.8 to 2.5 off the pace. We watched Will reel him in during the first half of this race. However, that was about 20 to 25 minutes. Now we're down to just over 13 minutes left to go. Does Will have the ability to bring down that 3 second gap before the checkered flag flies? Huff's on his second week of vacation. No wonder you're so busy when you're at work. It's because you're on vacation the rest of the time. It's easier to just not take vacation and work from home. Then I can just work whatever I want. Rob Kesar under pressure now from G. Steven. Rob and Steven, two of the very early members of Box 3. We've watched these guys race now. This is the third season bringing them together. They do tend to find each other on track and provide a great show. Rob right now leading out. We saw Rob earlier play some great defense when he had to. And now he opens up that gap again, spreading things out. We take a look right there. Look at the gap. I mean, Rob only about a little over a tenth to the better against Steven right now. You see both those guys again. G. Steven having a great race, up 10 spots today. Rob Kesar up 5. So a great run from both of them. I'm sure they'd love to get into the top 10, but Andrew Haynes, 8.1 seconds ahead. A little bit all by himself right now, although trying to come up on Matt Comiskey. Christoph Arts sitting in P8. Will Green continuing to try and close in, now down to 2.3 up to Brian Canopin. And there it is again, Rob Kesar, G. Steven closing in. Giving Rob very little breathing room. Armand Petrovic able to get around Artem Kudasov just behind here. And Kudasov now into yellow, off into the dirt. Anthony Anderson able to pick up a position because of it. Ooh, and Anderson with a little slide over that curb, getting a little loose. But our battle right now, and looks like DJ going yellow as well, dropping off track. Brian Anderson picking up P16 for that. But our closest run right now continues to be Rob Kesar, G. Steven in the McLaren. Looking to run down the Porsche of Rob Kesar. Well, maybe. We're watching up front, ladies and gentlemen. Will Green continues to close in on Brian Canopin, only down to 1.5 now. Conrad Kula showing a little bit of tap with some contact. Getting around Zap Brannigan as the back marker. But, as I said, Will Green continuing to close in on Brian Canopin. And if I'm Tobias Gable right now, I am the happiest driver in this race. I avoided any kind of trouble in lap 1. I minded my business. I gained a ton of position, and I've got nobody around me. I can just cruise to a podium right now. I mean, don't get me wrong. You love the battles. You want to battle people. But to be able to cruise to a podium, gaining 3 positions during the course of this race by just staying out of trouble, that's a pretty good feeling too. As we go on board with Will Green, trying to chase down Brian Canopin. Gives some idea the kind of push Will is looking to throw right now. He knows he's got a limited time frame to close this gap. It's yet to go under 1 second. Just over 9 minutes left to go in this 45-minute race. Both drivers in and out of the pits. And honestly, if Will probably did. I mean, somebody in the chat said, Will probably had damaged gasolina from the T2 incident. You're probably right. I have to wonder, though, given he was able to, and granted, it was because of a mistake by Canopin, but he was able to get around and then open gap ahead of Canopin once he was clear. He's had the fastest lap during the course of this race. He did that after lap 1 T2. I gotta wonder, did he really repair damage? But 5.9 to 12.2 seconds, that's over a 6-second gap in their pit stop time. It really makes me wonder, did he hit the box wrong? Anything like that would have maybe caused him trouble in the pits that slowed off his launch. And as Huff said, coming into traffic now, these guys are going to start running into back markers, and the battle is going to get serious. Just 8 minutes now left to go in today's race at the Nurburgring. I want to thank y'all for being here with us. We focus on Will Green. That gap now well under 1 second. Down to 7/10. We are going to get a battle at the end, ladies and gentlemen. What we're all here for. Crow, there it is. Brian Canopin, esports legend, now starting to feel the pressure from Will Green, real world legend of racing. When IRL meets esports, look at that gap tighten down. We are now within 0.3 of a second. Again, we saw this battle at the beginning of this race. I wasn't sure Will had enough time to close this gap, but he obviously has pushed and gotten it back down. And now we all get to watch the show with just under 7 minutes left to go today. Yes, you're right. Not easy to pass that Audi, especially when you got Crow behind the wheel. Again, look, in all honesty, had that mistake not happened, right? That mistake earlier in the race not happened, Brian Canopin would have been leading this race the whole time. He gave no quarter to Will Green. And I say that, in talking in what ifs. Again, Will has held the fastest lap by about half a second during the course of this race. Obviously has pace on Brian, but it's not just about pace. It's all about that defense and can you find the gap? Will didn't find a gap. We have to remember that we saw Will out ahead. We saw him lose that position due to the pit stop, but Will didn't find that gap. Crow gave up that gap by going off track. So let's see if we get a battle this time, or as Gasolina said, a mistake from Brian due to the pressure. Ryan Blanchett now picking up position over DJ. Back for P17 as DJ yellow flags and is off track. Porsche does not look healthy. Let's put it that way. He continues to lose position, but we'll jump back up front for the end of this battle. You say that, Red Rider, but he did. Oh, are they, Will? Huff, if you are speaking to them at all, can you please ask them to stay there at the conclusion of this race? Or actually, if let them know I'm going to move them. Because I don't want to go in there with everybody. I want those two. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. I don't want to just bounce in there and break anyone's concentration. Looking at the last laps, Will Green about 0.2 slower than Brian as those come together. So Brian, again, 2 seconds to the good, but right there you see the switch. Will Green 0.3 faster during that last lap as they come across the line. And with only 3:45 to go, there's only going to be about 2 to 3 more laps in this race. Will applying that constant pressure. We've got back markers ahead. We saw some great back marker moves. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Huff. We saw some great back marker moves during yesterday's Hungaroring Endurance. And if the same kind of play happens there, it really gives Will the opportunity to get by both of them very quickly. Huff's like on it today as we watch this. Will Green's Porsche right there. These guys so close, and Will looking for that opportunity, but again, didn't find it last time, right? Couldn't find that opportunity last time. Brian gave it to him. We'll see if that same thing happens again. Again, Will 0.3 to the good during that last lap. Other battles to watch back here, though. We're going to have to keep our eyes open. Rob Keesar and G. Steven have come together again. Also, Daniel Pickett starting to apply pressure to Remco Ottens. So another battle we're going to keep an eye on. But Will getting a great launch right here. Tucking right up under the wing of Canopin's car. Let's see if he's able to make a run on it down the straight into T1. Will's going to look inside, and you know he's dragging those brakes as late as possible. Just not quite there. But now Keesar and G. Steven. Keesar are backing down a little bit, getting white flagged out there. That usually means they've slowed down on track. Matt Comiskey and Andrew Haynes now coming together. So 2 battles to watch as G. Steven looks to the inside and can't quite get there. It's going to be as bad as the AM race with battles right to the end. You guys are keeping me busy today. Check back up front. Brian Canopin, Will Green. The gap definitely shrinking between the two of them. They've both cleared the back marker now. And it looked to have some clear air in front of them at this time. As we said earlier, Tobias Gable able to just tool along right now. 23 seconds back. Still a 3-second gap to Conrad Kula. So obviously Tobias with the pace, these guys are actually hitting about the same 157.2s. So 2 seconds slower than Canopin and Green, but equal to each other. A 157.220 and a 272. So really very close. And Gable able to maintain that as Will Green once again tightens things up going into the start-finish straight today. Throw it up and check those lap times. This time, Canopin just a hair to the good, but it hasn't stopped Will Green from applying pressure. And I really hope whoever that back marker is does not throw down a push on one of these guys because he thinks he's faster. As I try to pull a car number here. as the battles kick off all over the track. Christoph Arts and Matt Comiskey. Matt Comiskey getting around now. Comiskey heads into the pits, or as Arts heads into the pits, giving Comiskey the position, as well as Andrew Haynes, as I get confused about who I'm looking at because it highlighted it weird. Now, with time running out, we are down to our last laps here. Brian Kennepan continues to lead over Will Green. A great battle for P1. Christoph Arts, again, finishing the race in the pit. I'm unsure why. I mean, I didn't see any contact back there, possibly out of fuel, but I saw no contact further down the field. So I doubt it was a push or anything like that. No yellow flags. Brian Kennepan and Will Green going to run this one right to the end. We knew this would happen when we saw the start of qualifying and the end of it. With how close these two were, Will looking to the outside now. As Brian plays that solid defense, Brian Kennepan is your winner at Nurburgring today, with Will Green finishing 0.2 off his pace. But we're not done. Let's jump back. Matt Comiskey and Andrew Haynes under a battle right now. Haynes looking for his opportunity before the end of this race. Rob Kesar and G. Steven right behind them doing the same thing. We're going to keep an eye on both of these. Remco Otten's now getting within 0.4 of a Pickett, or I'm sorry, Pickett getting within 0.4 of Otten's. And he crossed the line before. Yes, Remco Otten's crossing that finish line, taking up P5 before Pickett can close that gap. Matt Comiskey holding on right now to P8 going through the final corner. And it looks like Matt Comiskey will hold on to hold P8. G. Steven getting around Rob Kesar, who went off track. Hold up. We got to back that one up. As they come around Zap Brannigan, and a push right there. The back marker action in front of them causing problems, allowing G. Steven to get into that top 10 ahead of Rob Kesar to finish out. Unbelievable. Anthony Anderson picking up P12. Petrovics in 13th. Artem Kudasov looking to cross the line in 14th today as our drivers continue to finish this race. Stick around, folks. We're not quite done. We're going to talk to those two drivers that we got to watch today have an absolutely believable, ridiculous, insane battle. And as we do that, we're going to jump to highlights of today's race. Absolutely fantastic. Brian Kennepan, esports legend. Will Green, motorcycle race legend. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Yeah, pretty
doing great. It seems that having more experience on 4 wheels rather than 2 wheels pays off. But all jokes aside, he definitely had more pace. So just day 2 of me having to make my ass as wide as physically possible, and it seems like also on this track, well, especially against the Porsche, I'm going to have the advantage in the straight. So just spent the whole time staring at my mirror and focusing on corner exit.
I mean, look, you played some great defense. Now, I will say, from looking at the numbers that I was seeing as laps were completed between the two of you, whether we talk about fastest lap or we talk about even your standard, I don't want to say standard laps. I want to say laps as you guys completed each one. It looked like Will had a little bit of pace on you, Brian. I'll be honest with you. He was always, not always, but a lot of times a little bit faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let Will explain where he was gaining all the time on me, because it definitely wasn't the straight. So
gotcha. Yeah, 100%. Now I got to ask Brian too, and I want to talk to you, but Brian, first, what happened? What was the mistake? What caused the dive out into the grass?
Just a little bit of a gap in the skill for a short bit. Coming into the chicane, I'd say that's actually where I'm presuming I lose the most time to the other cars. The new Audi, it definitely absorbs the curbs a lot better than the old one.
Mm-hmm.
But with that absorption comes rebound, and I just kind of hit the curb in the wrong way and just kind of bounced kicked myself all the way off track and gave it up. But lucky for me, I've done enough pit stops to kind of generally hit them right every single time, and that's where honestly I gained all my time back on him, and then went back to defense for the second stint.
And that's what I was going to ask next, Will, is what happened in the pit stop? Can you give us a rundown of kind of what happened there? Because Brian came out 5.9 seconds stopped. You came out at right around, I think, 12.2. That's a lot of time that you were stopped in the pits. So can you give us kind of what happened in there and what slowed you down?
Well, Brian had his gap in talent on the circuit, whereas I had mine pulling into the pits, and didn't switch the car off. Left it running and wondered why I wasn't being serviced.
Gotcha. Okay. So trying to do the you don't do the auto shut off like noobs like I do.
Nope. But to be honest, I normally stall it, and I haven't been in the Porsche long enough to realize that the Porsche has an automatic clutch as a factory setting, so it didn't stall when I didn't pull the clutch in.
Yeah.
But hey.
No, and that's why I wanted to ask you that, because we're all sitting out here, we're watching, and I'm like, that's a long pit stop compared to Brian. Because had you come out as fast as he did, doing the math, you should have come out about 2 to 3 seconds ahead of him, right? Yeah. But then once you pulled out, he got around you just as you were leaving the pits. And yeah, when we saw the time of that 12.2 seconds, I'm like, I wanted to ask you exactly what happened. But I will tell both of you this: absolutely a fantastic show today. You both put one on. Doesn't matter.
It was insane. I loved it. That final lap, especially side by side or almost side by side coming into the last corner, was insane.
So, Will, was there a certain part of the track? Was there a certain turn? Was there somewhere you were looking for the opportunity there coming down to the end? I mean, really, this was a sprint race today. They're all opportunities. But, as it came down to it and you closed in to, because we watched you, again, you were about 2.5 seconds back. You slowly reeled him in. Was there any one spot you were looking for that shot to take it in that last lap?
There were a couple. Obviously, I haven't got the pace down the straights because the Porsche has a lot less power than the Audi. But into turn one, it was much stronger on the brakes, being the Porsche. It was able to stop much quicker, but couldn't get the run out of the last corner and couldn't keep that down the straight. And into the last corner, because obviously Brian made the mistake at the chicane, and I knew that he was going to take that easy. So the last lap, I knew it was go time and not kind of show my hand too early. So yeah, we tried. Brian covered the inside pretty well, so had to go the long way around.
We saw it.
Yeah,
we watched it. Boy, I'll tell you what. And again, I want to thank both of you guys because I think you provided some great entertainment today. Brian, congratulations on winning today's race. Will, congratulations on your run, because I think you two are very equally matched. And I think I'm hoping that the rest of this season turns out the same and we get to see more of these battles.
I'll take being evenly matched with an esports legend.
I'll take evenly being matched with the motorcycle two-wheeler legend.
There you go. And Brian, while you are here, I said it earlier in the stream, but I want to thank you for that intro video. If anybody still watching wants to know, Brian Hannafin put that together. I just lend my voice to it. So thank you for that. And hopefully there will be more of them as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the centerpiece to it all, Molson. So
no,
don't give yourself enough credit.
No, I'm the bit player. I sit out here to the side and just trying to bring it together. You guys build all the pieces. Fantastic. I love it. Well, thank you both, gentlemen. Real quick before we go, I just want to remind everyone we are back. Not next weekend. Again, go see your dad. Will, what do you got planned for Tony for next Saturday?
He's in Australia. He's it's the same. It's Father's Day, but he's not even in the country. So
that's ridiculous. You're not going to fly out and visit him in Australia?
Absolutely not. It was his decision.
His decision.
He snitched us.
Maybe his Father's Day gift is not being near you. What does that say about you, Will? Is that
exactly?
Maybe that's what we got to look at here for a minute. Well, anyway, folks, we're not back next week. Next weekend's Father's Day. However, June 26th at the same time, we'll be back for Kyalami. Make sure you join us here. Will, I know World Tour is still going on for another few weeks, right? One more week, I guess. Tomorrow at Panorama, and then the 20th at Paul Ricard. So if you wanted to get some casual racing in, folks should jump in there with Will tomorrow for the World Tour. We'll see if that comes back. All kinds of stuff, though. Xbox going on, iRacing going on. You guys know what we do. Come to Box 3. You're going to enjoy it. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Huff. Are you here, Huff, still?
He dipped.
He dipped. Okay. Well, thanks to Huff for dragging you guys up here. He was in the chat and helping me today. So thank you both. And everybody, have yourselves a great weekend. Have yourselves a great week at work. And we will see you again, not next Sunday, but the Sunday after. We'll be right back here for the next race at Kyalami. Thank you.